right. Let's see. Pascal, you there? Right.
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right, let me get some headphones in. Okay. Let this populate. So the link right now should be Thomas Vlogs. How's it sound?
Is there any way that I can share it with?
Yeah. Yep. So let me.
Can I share it with my Facebook?
Yep. Absolutely.
Can you send the link?
I'll send it to you right now. PASCAL BRUN.
Is that the attachment you sent?
The one that I just sent over. But somehow it's not.
To go to my messenger. Hopefully the video continues.
Okay. Nope. Okay, Pascal's back in.
Can you, Tom, can you share that link on my Facebook page? Because I can't share directly from Messenger for whatever reason.
Let's see.
Because I think we have some international aspiring cadets that want to watch.
Got it. Let's see. Share. Can I copy the link for you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Just testing this, guys. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
All right.
What's going on? Live Q&A. Just let me push this out. Plus point live Q&A.
All right, so Tom, I can't see whatever questions people have if they're writing them, so you're just gonna have to say them out loud, and then we can both cover whatever that's able to cover.
Okay. So let's give it a couple minutes so that this populates a little bit. I know we got some folks that are just coming in right now, and so I'm spreading the word right now so that our folks on Instagram can also view it.
Oh, there we go. We got 6.
There we go.
Followers.
a couple more people in. There we go. We got 8. Trying to post this into
I think if any viewers have anything, feel free to ask them in the comments, because this entire video will end up being posted on the page.
That's right.
So people who miss out can come watch afterwards.
That's right. So as we're letting this populate, guys, just like what Pascal said, if you guys can start leaving your questions down in the comments below, and we'll get through them in sequence. And of course, we'll also bring up some of the questions that you guys also asked over social. It's pretty good ones. We'll also do like a introduction. That way, people who don't know your story, Pascal, will allow you to share that. That way, they can get a better sense of where we're coming from.
Yeah, good idea.
So
you want to start with that case?
What's up?
You want to start with your introduction in that case?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm actually going to share this on my Facebook too right now.
Okay.
Q&A. Pascal, you hear me? All right. Pascal is out of the video. What's going on? Right. Sorry, guys, we're having some technical difficulties. Pascal's connection is kind of slow right now. Please be patient with us. All right, Pascal should come back in. You all right, Pascal?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Should be good, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, great.
All right. We can begin, and we'll just go with what we got, and we'll see how it goes. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, guys. For those who do not know who I am, my name is Tom Lay. I am a West Point graduate, class of 2016. Just to give you guys kind of like a brief synopsis of kind of what happened before the journey and what led up to it, is that came straight out of high school, went to a civilian university. I then enlisted as a combat medic, and then had the opportunity to receive an appointment to go to West Point. Went to West Point for 4 years. I was an environmental science major. Did the whole med school route. I branched medical services, and now I'm currently in a force comm unit. Down and dirty. How about you, Pascal?
So my name is Pascal Brun, and I'm also a USMA 2016 grad, and Tom and I were roommates our first year. So that's our connection. I am Haitian born and raised, so I was one of the few international cadets in our class of 2016. And yes, West Point does have an international program where they accept cadets from all over the world to take part in the 4-year program, just as any other American citizen would. And my journey is I started boarding school at Culver Military Academy in 2009 and graduated from CMA in 2012 and got my appointment to West Point. And I could talk about the international cadet application later if there are any questions about that. And then made our way through West Point, and I graduated as the brigade adjutant, which is one of the main staff members on brigade staff who basically are in charge of the administration of the United States Corps of Cadets. So on the cadet side, that is. And now I'm back in Haiti, and I'm working with the Haitian National Police.
Awesome. Well, that was a great introduction. As you guys can see, Pascal has a pretty extensive background and history, and a lot of you guys, especially the international students who are looking to come to West Point, please ask your questions and pick Pascal's brain, because it is I don't think it's an easy process, and so the more information you guys have, the better. So if we want to start off with the first question right now, Pascal, can you see this one?
Most important gear to bring for CBT, or something you wish you had during CBT?
Since you're our guest, I will let you answer this one first.
All right, by Matthew Simmons. I think that's actually a very good question. I'd say for cadet basic training, the most important thing that I had was my watch. Probably number one was the most important thing, your watch, because there's going to be so many formations and so many hard times that you cannot be late. In fact, you have to be early, and what they suggest is that you're 5 minutes early to every formation and every hard time. So you got to know what time it is. You got to get a good watch. And I would suggest that you get a watch that is environment proof, weather proof.
Yes.
So I don't think you can go wrong with a good G-Shock. And go with the simple ones, not the flashy looking, shiny ones with like camo color. Please no.
Right.
Just a simple black G-Shock is your best bet.
I completely agree.
Number two would probably be a really sharp knife, because you're going to be cutting a lot of 550 cord during your CBT time.
Yeah, having a Gerber is super key. I know there's so many times that I was like, oh man, who has a Gerber? Because you're always trying to cut something open, whether it be like MREs, 550 cord like you're saying. And there's always some kind of use for that. Some sort of multi-tool that would help you in that process. And I definitely agree with Pascal, having that watch gives you a sense of direction of what time is it, what time you need to be awake if you're setting alarms, because you're not going to have your cell phone or an alarm clock with you everywhere you go. And so that's super key to have. I'd also include having like pen and paper on you at all times. There's been a lot of times where you're going to have some downtime, and just having that moment to reflect, write a little bit about what you did that day, and just keeping a journal. That way you can kind of look back on it, have those memories, and be able to learn from those experiences, and then you can share that with those later on. I've also written countless letters to my girlfriend, to my family, to my friends, and that also kept me going throughout Beast.
Yeah, that's a really good point with the pen and paper. Luckily, you get issued a box of pens and number two pencils, as
Hmm.
well as a few notepads. But you'll also have the option to bring some of your own or buy some from the cadet store. And they have these really good Write in the Rain notebooks that those are
Yeah.
weather. So I'd highly suggest those.
And then last but not least, if you guys can, if you guys can get like a sturdy pair of broken in boots so that you guys don't get blisters when you guys are trying to do your ruck marches. Super key to have them broken in prior to beast. They'll definitely save you a lot of trouble later on.
Right, you know what? That's such a great point that I didn't even think about because when you think gear, you usually think like military gear.
Yeah.
But I brought with me a mini med kit with
Oh,
some blister
moleskin.
band-aids, some moleskin, some antibiotic cream, um, and the like. And that came in super, super handy because you get some pretty nasty cuts,
Oh yeah.
easily infected. And I remember very specifically everyone coming to me because I had, alcohol swipes and triple antibiotic ointment and moleskin. And that's something that's very common with new cadets during their beach training. And that's a great way to earn respect from your peers right off the bat.
Yep.
Is if you're there to take care of them because you came prepared and they didn't.
Right.
That's that'll definitely bring in some brownie points not only with your cadre but also with your peers. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, that was a great question. Like
that
that
actually
that took me
like
back.
it did for me too. I was remembering like I don't remember if Mike Otten was in my squad or not, but for some reason I just keep thinking of having so much summer training with Mike, and he always had the worst blisters ever.
Oh my gosh. Avoid blisters at all costs, guys. Yeah, that'll make it pretty tough. So get the moleskin.
Yep.
All right, Pascal, this next question's for you. So this is sent by Robert Thomas Schweiderman. And he asked
Oh, Thomas,
Pascal, what's the
he was
biggest
my class.
takeaway? Really? He's your classmate?
It's good to see you. Ram. I'm glad you're here watching. So the question, the biggest takeaway from Culver that's helped you in your career at West Point. Okay, so what I would explain to people, the difference between Culver and West Point is that West Point is basically Culver 2.0. The cadet side, when it comes to school, is exactly the same. The leadership aspect of running inspections and balancing your time between classwork and military hard times and sports, it's literally all the same. The only difference is that at West Point during the summer, you're actually getting like combat training, soldier training, which you don't get at Culver. You just get the military hierarchy and discipline and values and morals and ethics. So that's really, I think, the biggest takeaway was being able to be prepared to manage my time so well that I was able to help others with it because the average high school doesn't push so much into your schedule
Hmm.
in such a way that you'll be prepared for it when you get to West Point. And Culver really, really prepared me for when I got to West Point, and I think that was the biggest takeaway, the time management aspect.
Now,
Good
Pascal,
question. Nice.
would you recommend any preparatory schools prior to West Point, whether it be West Point preparatory school, like New Mexico Military Institute, some of the other
Here's
ones?
what I would say is that a lot of those prep schools are basically they're going to be very similar to the West Point experience.
Hmm.
So unless you know 100% that you want to be an officer in the United States Army, then I wouldn't subject myself to more than 4 years of West Point, if you know what I mean, as a cadet. And going to a prep school is basically doing double the time.
Right.
Because you go through freshman year through senior year, you're gonna get the full experience of what it means to be a cadet. It's not necessary for you to have an additional preparatory experience unless you know 100% I want to be an officer in the United States Army, or I want to be an officer in whatever army or armed force in whatever country you're from, because I'm not an American citizen and I still went through the prep type school and through West Point. Was it beneficial? Absolutely. But it can be overkill if you're not sure that that's the route you want to take.
I see. Now, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get that opportunity to go to Culver?
So the way I got to Culver is my dad's colleague was a Culver grad back, and graduated because I'm not 100% sure. But he did speak to my dad about how great of an educational opportunity it would be for me and my older brother, Michael Brun, to go to Culver and to learn, the types of values that there are in that type of military environment, and how it would prepare us for the future in terms of managing time and managing people. And so my brother and I started with my brother. He went first. He received a scholarship, and he performed extremely well, exceptionally well. And so when I applied, I also got a scholarship, and that's how we both ended up at Culver.
That's really awesome. Wow.
Word of mouth, yeah.
Great question, Robert. And you said was that your classmate, or?
Yes, it was my classmate at Culver. We both graduated together in 2012.
Wow. Phenomenal. All right. Let's see if we have any more questions. So I do have some from social that was asked earlier. And we can kind of talk about those questions here. So this one is from Instagram, from Mr. Score Your Goals. And he asks, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to go to West Point?
That's all you.
What advice would you give? So I would say biggest thing when you guys are trying to commit to anything is doing your research. Do your homework, especially if there's going to be some sort of like obligation on the tail end, because as you guys know, when you guys go to West Point, you guys are going to accrue a 5-year service obligation upon graduation if you are a U.S. citizen, and it's different for international students. And so, and it's also about getting into the whole military experience as well. I've had friends that got accepted to West Point, and they thought West Point was like an ROTC program for like some prestigious school. And so their world was kind of shaken when they got there and they realized that this is like the 24/7 experience for the next 4 years. So I would say definitely do your research, know what you're getting yourselves into. See what kind of programs West Point has to offer. See if that aligns with what your goals are. And then also seeing if those next 5 years align with what you want to do in the future, being a military officer. And also, does the school offer, the majors, the academic curriculum that you want? And it really just depends. So that's my take on it, is just doing your research, doing your due diligence. That way you're more informed and you know what you're getting yourself into.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Very true.
Any thoughts on that, Pascal?
I think maybe to add on that, because it's kind of like, who was it, Sun Tzu in The Art of War, that says, know your enemy and know your...
That's
Not to
right.
say that West Point is your enemy, but West Point is a pretty formidable experience to conquer.
Absolutely.
But in addition to doing your research about West Point and what West Point means and the values that it stands behind and the experience that you'll have upon graduation as a United States Army or an Army in your country, I think it's also very important to really dig deep inside yourself and know yourself too.
Absolutely.
Because if you can do that beforehand, before you get to those really tough moments at West Point, which I guarantee if you make it in there and you decide that that's your route, you're going to have some moments where it's like, wow, what am I doing? Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
And it really helps big time if you've kind of dug your heels in before you're there so that you don't end up with stress that you can't handle
Mm-hmm.
while you're already in it. So try to do some soul searching before you make any decisions to actually step foot on campus as a cadet.
Yeah. And like really just do what you want to do. Some people go to West Point because of a legacy, because of pressure, because it's just something that they've always known. And that may not always be the best case for you as an individual. And that's what, just going off Pascal, is like you have to kind of know yourself and know what your strengths, your weaknesses, what at the end of the day, what you want. All right, so we got another question. This one is from Luke Pengley. He asks, what was your high school career like and what helped you get into West Point? Give a couple moments to
Start
kind of
off.
think about it. Yeah. So for me, my high school career wasn't like super stellar just because my 50-meter target wasn't West Point. So I was just trying to do the best I could do in high school, and I was just planning on attending a local civilian university. And so my high school career, I just, I participated in like Boys State, National Honor Society. I did a couple other extracurricular activities. I was president of like a diversity club. As far as academics, I took a couple of AP courses. I didn't take like 8, 9, 10 like other people did. It was very standard. I wasn't that great. I was probably just like top 10% of my class. There wasn't like anything crazy, but it was enough for me to just get into the local university that I was trying to get into, and that's what I did. I didn't actually start thinking about West Point until much later on, actually 2 years after I graduated from high school. And in between that time frame, when I was going to college and when I was enlisted, I actually heard about West Point and decided to pursue it onwards. And just actually having those experiences, being a college student at a local university, being an enlisted soldier as a combat medic, those two together helped me paint a different picture, more of an unconventional path in order to get into West Point. And I think having that experience really helped my application. So.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that the two of us had very different paths and still ended up, roommates of all
Yeah.
Yeah, because you do have a very unconventional path.
Mm-hmm.
You did high school, you did regular college, you enlisted, and then you ended up at West Point.
Yeah.
It's an interesting path to take.
And so for you, Pascal, Culver is a high school, right?
It is a high school, yes. It's
military
a
high school.
Four-year high school. It just happens to be a boarding school. That's a military boarding school. And they don't specifically like it's not a feeder school into West Point or anything. Actually, a very small percentage of graduates of Culver graduates end up at West Point. Most of them go to a regular, college around the nation, around the United States. But my path was, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a college prep school and it's military. So that does help the outlook for someone applying from Culver into West Point.
Hmm.
Um, but I did sports. I did wrestling for 3 years, and then I ended up my senior year as the wrestling team captain for the varsity team. Obviously, there's the military hierarchy as well. So went from new cadet to and you climb the ladder. Did operations sergeant, platoon sergeant, team leader, unit commander, and then I ended up regimental commander, which is the equivalent of the first captain. That also helped my outlook a lot, especially as an international cadet,
Hmm.
to get into West Point. And I did some extracurriculars as well. I only took one AP course. I took AP Physics. I think it was the simpler AP Physics. I know there's A, B, and B, C. Definitely wasn't smart enough to do the AP Physics B, C. Uh, Luckily, I passed the AP exam.
Yeah. Did you still take
I mean,
physics at
I
West
was
Point?
an AB student. Yeah, I took a lot of physics at West Point. I started off as an electrical engineer and then switched
That's right.
majors to systems engineering. So
That's
yeah,
right.
a lot of electricity studies.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like that just goes to show that there's many different paths that you can take to receive an employment to West Point. And there's not one that's better than the other. Really, it just depends on you as a person and what you have to offer. And also has to do a lot with potential. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a question like this, I think what a lot of admissions is looking for is someone who's striving to be the best in whatever it is that they're doing,
mhm,
and someone who's also trying to stretch themselves through, a broad base
right?
because an officer in the United States Army is is very broad. They have a broad understanding of a lot of things. And the reason why I think is because you're expected to be able to communicate with people from all walks of life.
Right.
And to do that, you can't be single faceted. You have to be multifaceted. What do you think, Tom?
Yes. I completely agree with that. And it's really preparing you, especially in that position as a military officer, to be very flexible, very adaptable
Mm,
in a multi-dimensional world where it's always changing. You have to be on your feet at all times. And that's why you can't be just like that subject matter expert in just one thing. Like you got to have a broad understanding of everything and be able to make those right decisions at the right time. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day. Is they're looking for somebody who's multidimensional. Somebody has that potential to make those kind of decisions.
that's a good question.
Good
I
question.
agree.
Okay, so I continue. Let's see. I can encourage you guys to keep asking the questions down below. That way we can show it up here on the broadcast. I do have a lot of questions in the queue, like I said, from our social, but would love to just kind of showcase your guys' question on this broadcast. So there's a second part to Luke's question. And he says he recently got into Boise State and West Point SLE. Do you know how helpful these could be?
I
Pascal,
have
did you
no idea what
do Boise State or Summer Leaders experience?
I have heard about the West Point Summit Leaders experience from participants, and from what I understand, it seems like it's it could be a worthwhile experience for you. I mean, it kind of depends on who your cadre is at the time,
Yeah.
mostly, and also how much you try to pull out of the experience as well. it's kind of gonna depend on both. Are you really trying to get as much out of the experience as possible by asking cadre questions, asking your peers questions, really taking in the West Point environment, or are you just going through the motions and, you know, playing the volleyball that they play or taking the tour and not really paying attention? So
Yeah. It's really about how much you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And so I think anything that exposes you more to, you know, community, to service, extracurricular activities, something that you're going to get something out of, especially like something like SLE, where you're going to be able to interact with the cadre, so you can get their knowledge. You can kind of see how West Point is like by being there, see what the system is. Now you have a little better sense, a better idea of the institution. But also that's just preparing you, because now you can talk about it like during your interviews, on your essays, that you've already committed this much to some of these programs like SLE, and that just shows how much you want to go in, how much you want to go to West Point.
Yeah, good point.
So it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you at all.
That's for sure.
Okay, so here's a question from Jeremy Liker. And he asks, are there any career positions, opportunities that only West Point graduates can receive compared to other commissioning sources?
What do you think, Tom?
So this is like speaking strictly from my own personal opinion, because I honestly don't have enough knowledge on this. And if anybody's watching, please correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're talking about positions, opportunities in the military, I don't think that there is any difference between the two commissioning sources. They're not going to choose one person over the other because they went to West Point over, you know, some other ROTC program. I think it's just a matter of, if you have like the prerequisites, if you have the skill set, and that's something that they're looking for, then they will choose that person. They're not going to look at that commissioning source. Now, if you're talking about career opportunities after the military, I think that is also, it's a little bit different, just because of the weight that different institutions carry, and it's also of the network and the people at those jobs. They may have a larger sway based on which commissioning source it may be. So if you go get a job that has a lot of like Harvard graduates, and you are a Harvard grad, you're more than likely to have maybe you might have a better chance, just because you might know the person, somebody might put in a word for you. I think that's something that can be taken into consideration. What do you think, Pascal?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Jeremy. That's speaking strictly from just like a personal opinion. And mine is, at this point, is quite limited because I haven't had that time frame after the military yet. Okay, so I'm going to put up this next question. This is from Caleb Brown 184 on Instagram, and he asks, I'll put it up here. How should I physically prepare for West Point? How much cardio? How much aerobics? What should I focus on? Did you guys do a lot of PT at Culver? What did you do on the side?
Well, it's mandatory to do some sort of company athletics if you're not a part of a varsity sport at Culver. So everybody was doing some sort of athletics. But I think specifically to prepare for West Point, if I had known what the summer activities would have been like, I probably would have run a lot more. I would probably try to run at least a mile or two a day. And I would probably have done a lot more push-ups.
Yeah.
100, 200 push-ups a day, maybe 2 months before you're actually starting Beast. Are we even 2 months out right now?
Pardon?
Yeah. Are we still 2 months out yet from Beast? We're still
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah. Yep, about 2.5 months.
Okay, so let's say if you can't knock out 60 push-ups in 2 minutes if you're a male, and that's I'm talking minimum. I'm talking minimum right here. If you can't knock out push-ups in 2 minutes as a male, and what's a female standard for the PT test? I can't really.
I don't remember, but it's different for each age group.
That's right. Well, I'm assuming that most people will be 18, maybe 19 years.
So for females, to max out, it's 42, right? And the minimum is a 60. So that is 19 push-ups.
Okay, so for females, if you can't get at least 25 push-ups in 2 minutes, for males, if you can't get at least, and I'm saying at least 60 push-ups, because I know that 60 push-ups is still passing. I know that 25 push-ups is still passing for the male-female grades for 18 to, I think the upper bracket is 21. Then you don't want to be at the bottom of that bracket.
Right.
You do not want to be in that category of cadets that are coming in who hasn't prepared, because it's really going to make your squad look bad, and it's really going to make it's not going to reflect well on you either, but considering you already know that, you're going to train to get there,
Right.
Because you want to reflect well on yourself. You want to reflect well for your squad mates, and you want to reflect well for your squad leader, because your squad leader, and this is something that a lot of people don't consider when they're a new cadet. Your squad leader has been putting in weeks of work to prepare for your training. Weeks of work. They're taking their own time away to make sure that you get the best training that you possibly can. And they're going to be squared away physically, mentally, spiritually, and in their knowledge, so that you can be the best that you can be during your summer training. So please do what you need to do to reflect well on yourself and your family and your background, to reflect well on your peers who took the time to work and get into West Point and reflect well on the same, and to give some respect to your squad leader who put in so much time to be there with you and to push you the way you need to be pushed.
Everything that you're about to embark on, they have already done twice. Once as a cadet candidate or new cadet, and then also LTP as they're training up just before that detail. And so they're expected to do what you guys are all about to do. And just to add on to what Pascal's saying is, like, in order to prepare yourself, it's not only physically, but it's also mentally. So you have to start getting focused and start prepping how you're going to get through this, because it is a mental challenge too. Like, a lot of things that you're going to do is going to be first time doing it, and it's going to be pretty hard for you guys. And so sometimes it's about taking that leap of faith and really trusting yourself and trusting those to the left and right of you. I would also add on, as you're doing physical training, don't focus on just going to the gym and getting super swole, because although like muscular strength training is really advantageous, what you're going to be doing during the summer is going to require you to have a lot more endurance. And so that means being able to ruck long distances, being able to keep up in like long distance runs. And it's not only flat terrain, it's uneven terrain. It's going up elevation. So as you're practicing, start practicing in hot temperatures. Start doing hill sprints. Don't just run on a treadmill. Get outside. You got to train in the environment that you're going to be in, and so that's going to best prepare you to avoid any injuries, but also really set you up for success.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
All right, we got a couple more people in, and this one is from Matthew Simmons.
There's
That's a funny question.
That's a very funny question because it could be answered in some very funny way. But I think we're going to defer.
Yo, know your knowledge. Know your knowledge.
Yes, know your knowledge and be physically fit to the PT standard.
Yeah. And I would also say be a team player. Like,
yeah.
That truly reflects, because I don't know if we did this, but at some point there's going to be like peer assessments where you rank everybody in your squad, and based on like how cooperative you are, how much of a team player you are, you add value to that group, and everyone sees it, and that's what you're going to be assessed on, your performance. So
I would almost say the better question that you should be asking, Matthew, is how can I make my teammates' lives easier?
That's right.
That's the question you can be asking. That's the better question, I should say.
Yep.
Because your squad leader, if you can help your teammates make their lives easier throughout Beast, that's going to help out your squad leader a lot. And if you're trying to mess up to your squad leader, that's really going to upset everyone, including the squad leader, and especially your teammates, because they're gonna be able to see it, they're gonna feel it.
Yep.
So focus more on your teammates than your squad leader. Your squad leader will be recognizing your efforts.
And I would say you want to keep this way of thinking as you progress throughout your career, because this is an organization where it's always like teamwork, group effort, and it's like service to everybody. And so you're always thinking about, how can I make it easier to the person to the left and right of me? How can I make my boss's life easier? So you're always having these kind of like thoughts and considerations when you're making these decisions. What can you do to better lives of those to the left and right of you? So, all right. I got another one for you, Pascal.
All right, let's hear it.
Luke Pengoli asks, Pascal, where are you now? In the U.S. Army or with Haiti?
I am in Haiti. Actually, right now I'm in a hotel in Cape Haitian. It's in the northwestern department of Haiti. So the Haiti is broken up into departments, not states. And I'm working with the Haitian National Police. I'm a principal inspector. Right now, I'm actually working at the National Police School, training some, what would I call them? It's kind of like a mix between riot control and SWAT. So I'm helping with their training. It's about 90 of them, and they should be done in a few weeks here. And then I'll be jumping around the institution over the next few years here. But yeah, I'm back home in Haiti. Thanks for the question.
A lot of people have been asking about you, Pascal. So we're just trying to get an update on you. And we got Olaf Grosso in the house from New Brunswick, Canada. Welcome to the live Q&A, and welcome to anybody that just joined. So we'll probably do this for another, Pascal, you have another 10 minutes?
Yeah, another 10 minutes is good.
Okay, 10 minutes, and then we gotta wrap up the Q&A just because we did run a little late starting this, but we are on a timeline. And I don't want to keep you too long from whatever you're doing this evening. So we got a question from Running with Purpose on Instagram, and he asks, how was your West Point experience?
How was yours, Tom?
Quite honestly, and I say this every single time that somebody asks me, but I say it was the best 4 years of my life. And I say that without any regrets because I got so much more out of it than all the what some people say, like the challenging things or tough things that came with it. Because I learned so much about myself, like personally and professionally. And I was able to really develop along the way communication skills, leadership skills, teamwork skills. I learned a lot of knowledge, whether that be philosophy, whether it be economics, engineering. That really opened my way of thinking. And I think it really helped me prepare for the position that I'm in and what I will do in the future. I also had great networks. I met a lot of great mentors. I was able to participate on a lot of different experiences, whether it be traveling to Haiti to do a humanitarian mission, whether it be going shadowing a lieutenant in Korea to see what a military police unit was like. I got to do the whole 9 yards, and that's something that I don't think I would have personally had the opportunity to have if I would have went anywhere else. Just because there's so many resources, there's just the foundation just really sets you up. So I have nothing bad to say about my experience at West Point. What about you, Pascal?
I have to say the same, man. I really think it was the how is it 47-month experience
Yep.
was really one of a kind, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even though there were some moments where I really doubted my reasons for being there. I really doubted whether or not I wanted to continue. There's a lot of moments of doubt throughout those 4 years, but there's also a lot of moments where it's just like, wow, look at what I just did. Wow, look at what we just accomplished.
Right.
And those moments, especially coming from the moments of doubt, it helps you. I think it helps you realize not only who you are, but what your limits are. And for me, I think the West Point experience helped me realize that I have, like, you can stretch your limits as far as you can push them.
Right.
As far as you're willing to push them is how I should correct it. And that's a really powerful thing to come out of West Point knowing, is that you can accomplish basically anything you put your mind to. And that's why people really, really, really like West Pointers, is because you meet a West Pointer, you've just met somebody who had to push themselves to graduate. They had to find whichever way possible to cooperate with the people around them, to get the information that they need, to figure themselves out, to put their own problems aside and accomplish a goal. That is something that you find it's a rare commodity. It is a rare commodity in this day and age.
Yeah.
To find someone with that willpower and with that ability to work with others to be able to accomplish a shared goal. So I think my West Point experience was absolutely fantastic. Met a lot of really interesting people, met a lot of great mentors, traveled. West Point sent me to Ghana with a small team as well. It was my first time in Africa, so that was amazing, even though Ghana is so similar to Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was great. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
I would also include their their ethics program is something that's so unique that not a lot of other universities emphasize. Like, I felt coming out of West Point much more like ethically and more morally stronger, thinking about always like thinking about doing the right thing without a doubt. And that's something that I'm truly appreciative for, is because that's something that you live every single day. And yeah, I feel so much more grounded because of it.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to take it to that route, I think in addition to the ethics and the leadership aspect, because you take courses on leadership psychology, is just the general psychology that they teach you at West Point. It is absolutely like, it's something it'll serve you for the rest of your life. Yeah. You learn about the small team dynamics and psychology. You learn about organizational psychology. You learn a little bit about counseling. You learn about the psychology of leadership, military psychology. I mean, they really pack a lot of courses in there to have you understand the human brain and how it functions and why it thinks the way it does. And more so, they give you the tools to learn how to apply that knowledge,
right,
to help guide your future soldiers on how to get through a lot of really tough situations. And I think that's the most valuable thing that you'll take away from West Point, that you'll be able to apply not only in the Army, but also in the civilian world. Is understanding why people think the way they think and how you can guide them to accomplish their goals.
Excellent. That was an excellent response. Excellent question. So, yeah, man, I completely agree with you on that. Completely agree. Do you have room for one more question?
One more, and then I got to go real quick.
Okay. We'll make it good. All right, so this one is from Chad Johnson on Instagram, and he asks, so interpret it how you want, but he asks, what is life like now as an Army officer, and what responsibilities come with it? And I think, Pascal, you can also speak on behalf of this as well, just because of the position that you're in and what you're about to do for your country.
Why don't you start off, since I think it's more of a question directed to you, and then I can add the international perspective afterwards.
Okay, absolutely. So for me, life as an Army officer, it's the real deal. Like, this is no longer what we've been practicing at West Point anymore. It's lives are now on the line. You have full responsibility, whether it be financial responsibility, personal responsibility, and then responsibility over the lives of your soldiers and their families. And so now you're looking at the welfare of everybody under your command. And I think it just adds so much more. It really brings you like to reality, and everything that you've been training and preparing for, like, this is it. So when you're making decisions, you are doing your research. You're making sure you're making the right decision, and you're doing it the right way. And because there's so much on the line, and that's something that I've really learned over these past couple months as a platoon leader, and also as a battalion staff officer, is because every decision I make, there are tons of cascading effects after it, and yeah, the responsibility so much greater, so much greater breadth, and I think that you just, at the end of the day, you gotta know what you're doing, and you got to make sure you're doing your due diligence when you're making these decisions. So I also say life now as an Army officer, it's very rewarding because you actually get to see the decisions you make come to life, and you get to see like the joy and the happiness of what your soldiers get out of the training. And when you're able to, let's say, help them with a personal problem, and they come to you, and you just feel really good at the end of the day because you're like, wow, I just like impacted, I just positively influenced this person in some shape or form, or I was able to make this organization better than how it was. And to me, that's very satisfying, and that makes all the tribulations, all the tough times worth it. And so far, I really enjoy my job, and I hope that others who do pursue this career look beyond kind of like the what's ahead of them, what may be difficult, and see the longer lasting effects that it has on everybody else.
That's I think it's not too far off being an international cadet graduating from West Point, in the sense that there's similar responsibilities, in the sense that you're going to be working with others in a lot of different aspects of their lives, and so a lot of that responsibility falls on your shoulders as an officer, because you're expected to help them in the best way that you can, not just with the job, but also with their families, to help them with financial advice, personal advice, because you are an officer and you have that education, and that's one of the expectations. But I think what's different being an international graduate of West Point is that you're more than likely going to come from a country that doesn't have many graduates from the United States Military Academy in your country. So if you're like me, I'm the first graduate of this 4-year cadet program from Haiti. Cruz Matrumbu was the first graduate from Gabon. I mean, there's other cases where you might have, if maybe a handful of graduates from other countries that were in some of our classes, And so the point being, if you're an international graduate, there will be a lot of eyes on you, both from your own citizens, from your own compatriots, as well as international eyes as well. And they're going to expect a lot from you. In fact, they're going to think that, let's just keep it at that. They're going to expect a lot from you.
There's a lot of pressure.
It can be a lot of pressure. So always remember that what you're doing, the responsibility doesn't fall on just you. You're really carrying yourself, your family, and your country on your back when you become an international graduate of the academy, because it is known as a prestigious leadership institution, military institution, and people will really look to you to solve problems that have not been solved before. So if you're an aspiring international cadet and you want to be an international graduate of the United States Military Academy, be strong, because your country is going to need you to be strong.
And so is the United States as well, because we're all allies, and we're going to need that friend-to-friend relationship between the two countries, so that we can help each other and grow, and really take care of each other. All right, that wraps up this live Q&A. We thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come out and listen to us and just get some of our experiences. We hope that you guys got something out of it. Thank you, Pascal, for taking time out of your busy schedule to help out with this Q&A. I'm sure the audience really appreciates it as well. It was so awesome to have you be a part of this. Any last final comments?
No, thank you for inviting me, Tom. It's always a pleasure. And good luck to any of you aspiring cadets, and even those of you who are just interested in knowing what our lives were like, but you're not planning on going to West Point. Good luck to you in your careers as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to any of us on our social. You can find Pascal's YouTube page, Pascal Brun. He has a lot more content. And then same as my YouTube page, Thomas Vlogs. If you want to check him on Instagram, Pascal A. Brun. I'm on Instagram as well, Thomas Vlogs. Feel free to ask more questions or just see what our life's like, because this is all part of the whole military experience, and we want to be able to provide as much to you guys as possible. And that way you guys are prepared and ready to go.
That's right.
All right, guys. I hope you guys have a good night. Take care.
All right. Bye.